As we wrap up YCS Indy, we have the top 32 to the finals to go over, and I've been collecting the data over the course of the whole day from top 32 till now. So let's not waste any time and let's get right into it, and let's look at the top 32 and let's talk about the breakdown that there is. So for the top 32, as we can see, we have 12 Rescue Ace. All of them were on Sinful Spoils. On the Konami blog post, it was saying Rescue Ace and then Rescue Ace or Sinful Spoil Rescue Ace, but all the Rescue Ace players were on Sinful Spoils. After that, we have 4 Purely, 3 Tearlament, 2 Manadimian, 2 Unchained, 1 Sprite Adventurer, 1 Exorcister, Flonundries, Horus Bestial, Labyrinth, Runic, Sun Avalon, Rika. Then we also have Tri-Brigade Sprite and Vanquished Soul. So a very well diverse top cut, as I believe this is 14 different decks that were there, while the majority was Rescue Ace, and the second and third were Pearly and Tearlament. And honestly, I really like the breakdown because of how much that there is for this whole entire event. Now, honestly, what do I think about this whole event? It was a lot of fun to watch. Now, I do want to cover some lists, so let's go right over on those. So for the first list, we're going to be looking at Rescue Ace, who is piloted by Jackson Rauch. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And honestly, this list is super standard. We have the 3 Airlifter, the 2 Hydrant, 2 Turbulence, 2 Preventer, 1 Impulse, and then we also have a tech of Infernoble Knight Ricardetto. And this is very nice because you could banish this card from your hand or graveyard, special summon 1 level 4 or lower Fire Warrior monster from your hand as a tuner. So essentially you could go into synchro plays if you have something on the lines of your Impulse plus, I believe, just whatever else you can make along with the Dibel Star into a Baronne de Fleur. Now, other things, as we could see, you could see the core engine for the Dibel Star. We have 3 Dibel Star, 3 of the Wanted, and 1 Origin, because Origin gets to your Rescue Ace Hydrant, so I believe he cut it down to 2 because he's running a card that could summon it. Now, along with that, he's running 1 Subversion in the side deck, which is very neat, along with Gaga Cowboy. So overall, this is a very nice list, and we could also see they're using the Proxy F Magician tech so they can get a Mud Dragon Call Fire, and almost everyone, if they could get it, was on the SP Little Knight, along with other tech options here and there. We also do see Gaga Cowboy in the side deck and the 1 Exceed Encore just for Pearly, which is absolutely fine. Now for the other top 32 deck that I have on here is the Sprite Tri-Brigade list. Now this was piloted by Oscar Burgos, and I really like how the list is set up. One of the most prominent cards that are in the format right now is Super Polymerization, because being able to Super Poly away 2 Rescue Ace monsters for a Mud Dragon is very nice, or fusion away 2 monsters with the same type and attribute for Garura is also very great. Now, this is the one deck that you don't see Surgical Striker in here, Typhon, but that's absolutely fine because you have other options you could utilize, which I really do like. He's utilizing things like Underworld Goddess of the Closed Forest, and number 2, Ninja Shadow Mosquito. Overall, a very solid list. Main cards that people really want to be running are things like Forbidden Droplet, Super Poly, D-Barrier, even Imperm this format, because all those cards are super, super good, and with an influx of people playing Thrust and Talent, I definitely see quite a bit of people dropping a few hand traps, like siding your Bestials or Ash Blossoms, or even not even playing any monster hand traps at all, and they're just playing Imperm, which is good, along with stuff like Drone Lockbird. So honestly, this format with how Triple Tactics, Thrust, and Talents are definitely can sway the games, and I feel like a lot of people will be switching over to those while they're putting in more reactive things in their decks than proactive cards. Now let's get into the top 16 because we don't really have that many decks out, and it's mostly Rescue Ace decks that I can find that are already built, and let's see what this top 16 was all about. So first off, as we can see, Rescue Ace still leads the charge with 7, next to Manadimian, Tearlament at 2 players on those decks. Then we have Exosister, Horus, Bestial, Purely, Sun Avalon, Eureka, and Unchained at 1 duelist apiece. For this top 16, it's very well balanced, but a little top heavy on the Rescue Ace, which in my opinion is still fine, because the conversions for all these decks are actually really well, as we see decks taking 34% away, 50%, and all that. But honestly, with how this event went, I'm happy with the results, and I cannot wait to see what comes from this and what tech options appear in the future, because the format just changed and we're getting a price drop coming soon in the next week and a half with the rarity collection. So that's going to be better for a lot of players because the game is going to be a little less expensive than what it is currently. Now afterwards, we have the top 8. Now this top 8 is still super diverse, and I really enjoyed looking at all the statistics. As we can see, we have 3 Rescue Ace, and then the rest are one-ofs being Purely, Tearlament, Manadimian, Unchained, and Exosister. All these decks made it to top 8, which is very, very nice, and nothing's too overpowered, but Rescue Ace is at a 37.5%. while the other decks are at their 12.5, but another deck could have squeezed in here and we would have had a total of, I don't know, 7 different decks, but having 6 different decks in the top 8 is still definitely better than having 2 or 3 decks in the top 8, because you have a variety of decks that you can watch on for the live stream, and this is why I prefer somewhat diverse formats, because it's more entertaining to see what's on the live streams, and seeing that everything's going how it is. A lot of these decks are going to be dropped off as we go into the top 4. Let's see how much development there has been. So for this, we have 2 Rescue Ace, 1 Manadimian, and 1 Purely. So Sinful Rescue Ace is going to be the variant to go for Rescue Ace, and I might cover that on my channel on some tips and tricks, even though that there's a billion videos on that. But we also have Manadimian, a very high skill ceiling deck, but also it has very decent skill floor. Purely's another one of those decks, but honestly, seeing 3 decks in the top 4 is better than seeing 2 or even just 1 deck. I really like when there's super diverse, like 4 decks in top 4 or 3 decks, because you never know what's going to happen, as if you have 2 different decks compared to the top deck, those 2 different decks could technically win, and then you would have 2 different decks in the top 4, or 1 can win and all that. But honestly, seeing Rescue Ace, Manadimian, and Purely all in the top 4 is very nice to see, because I play 2 of them, and I know a friend that plays 2 of them as well. But I am really happy with how much the game has changed over the past few months, especially after the Kashtira and Tearlament whole slaughter that has happened to the game. It's still quite shocking that it's almost been a year since Kashtira Riseheart came out, and it's only been about a month since it was banned, and I feel like the format's definitely more in a better spot. Now, as we can see, this is the full breakdown from top 32 to finals, and I have this separated into 2 different slots, as this is just for the deck total going through the rounds. And as you can see, Rescue Ace has one of the best conversion rates, going from 12 to 7 to 3 to 2 to 2, while the other decks still have very good conversion rates. Manadimian staying at 2-2, then 1-1, and Purely staying at 4 and going straight to 1s, while other decks just got knocked out instantly, like Adventurer Sprite and Labyrinth, along with Vanquished Soul. And I kind of wish we had a feature match with Horus Bestial, because that seems like a very fun deck to watch and see what people could do with it, as creative decks like that make the game continue to go, because you always have creativity going on. But let's take a look at the actual other part of the chart that I did, and this shows the total of how many decks are per each, but it doesn't show the actual numbers by 5s, it does by 10, but you could see how much it breaks down throughout the whole event. We could see that Rescue Ace is taking well over 10, while Pearly has 4, almost half, and a lot of other decks are at 1 and then instantly drop off. You can see some go from 3 to 2, or 2 to 2, or 2 to 1, or just stay 1 to 1 and then drop off. But honestly, seeing all of this data in one place is relatively nice, and I wish we had more lists out currently, but I will do a second part to this later in the week because I want to cover some of the top 8 decks here and see what techs people have played and what other things have played, like a top 16 Rescue Ace list they were on. Arch Nemesis is Shadows, which is very, very cool. But anyways, I have been Bolt Spider. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, as I kind of want to get back to going over competitive analysis type videos like this, seeing the majority of what people play, and it does have a lot of work to go behind it, but that's the thing that makes a lot of these videos good and better, because you have to put work behind it instead of just being, oh, I'm just going to record a video and upload it. But instead I have to do actual research and do things, get my brain going and all that again, because I really haven't been doing content like this for a while. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you guys did enjoy, and see you guys in the next video.